There's this strange obsession in anime, a trope where usually the main character is someone who is a hard worker. Whether it's a power system, artistic ambition, or something else, they are the ones who are nose to the grindstone. Then there's this contrasting character, someone who is gifted with the talent in the craft. It can be a high power level, or as we'll discuss, a natural aptitude for storytelling. If you've seen Look Back, you know what I'm talking about. Many people who've analyzed this series tried to deconstruct the major themes, which everyone has agreed is, why does one create art? I've seen some video essays talking about this topic and it's wonderful. It's great that it's being talked about, but there are smaller scenes we can zoom in on that depicts the hard worker versus the gifted. Fujino is the girl whose manga in the school newspaper is beloved. She has a knack for storytelling with illustration that can get the point across. Obviously, this is an elementary schooler we're talking about, so I'm not gonna critically analyze her art. We can see that she is gifted in a sense, as till this point, she's never had to think about what it means to hone the craft. Then, another artist gets a spot in the newspaper. The student draws stunning landscapes and scenery. You'd think that the student is also one of the gifted like Fujino. Fast forward a couple of years and we get to take a peek at the process of this artist, Kyomoto. She doesn't attend school in person due to her inability to socialize or function in a social environment. We see through the hallways of the house all of the hard work she's put into this craft. Notebook after notebook of sketches, studies, and practices on the paper. There's no doubt that all she ever does at home is draw. This comes as quite a shock to Fujino. The divide between their ability comes from the effort put in. I'll come back to this, but for now, let's look at the broader scope. If you're unfamiliar with the anime scene, there's this genre of story that is popular. It sometimes falls in line with the idea of hard work versus talent, the power fantasy trope. Everyone knows about Solo Leveling, so it would be in bad faith of me to not mention it here, despite me thinking it's just an okay show. Settings such as this, where the world has deemed our protagonist unworthy or not of value. This is just a pocket in the strange obsession. Solo Leveling has displayed this on a different magnitude with its popularity. In the series, Sung Jin-woo is one of the lowest power levels you can be in his world. Despite this, he continues to put himself in danger so that he can provide for his family. Through cruel and unusual events, Sung Jin-woo then gains access to a different power system, one that can provide him with endless opportunities in a world that was previously designed to be based on natural talent alone. However, unlike other shows in this genre, Solo Leveling requires the protagonist to chip away every day at this diamond in the rough. He undergoes strenuous physical training and plunges into dangerous dungeons in order to increase his power level. It isn't just given to him as in other power fantasy shows. Whereas the attraction around those is purely a fantasy imagination, Solo Leveling roughly depicts the turmoil and trying times that comes with the power. It is, at its core, a wonderful example of this genre. I wouldn't say that this show is my favorite under this umbrella, what with the hype moments and aura and like nothing else. But in complete isolation, the themes of the show fit the idea we are talking about. Even when you compare it to others, like in Chivalry of a Failed Knight, those shows most likely display the scope of an underdog overcoming expectations. They don't depict the tumultuous journey up till that point. When you zoom out even further, the anime scene has many examples of this dynamic. The example with the most legacy is Dragon Ball. In the series, Goku has been known to train his fighting ability. This is done through martial arts practices. He has some latent power in him, but it's not comparable to the enemies he faces. In every saga, new opponents with power levels greater than the last come across Goku. Their aptitude to this power, their talent, is known from the very first time you see them. They arrive with established power. We've seen the journey Goku has been on since he was a child. Every accomplishment is visible to the viewer. New milestones are crossed alongside the audience. These milestones include the power levels, but also victories in his personal life, making friends and having his own family. We are given the opportunity to see all of this blossom. It's as if the concept of the show was created with the core values being hard work. Given the inspiration for this series, this can be seen to be the truth. Looking at one more series, there is Blue Lock, a series where the culling of characters depends on how much hard work they put into improving. Our main character, Isagi, is someone who has has potential. However, it takes endless hours of scrimming, practicing, and working out in order to pull out his latent abilities. It's in these exhibitions that he gets to learn more about himself. Compare his situation to someone like Nagi, a proclaimed genius when it comes to picking up the sport of soccer. Within months of playing, he's on the upper end of mechanical ability, whether it's handling or technique. When he first appears, it's unthinkable that you'd be able to surmount this wall of a man. This talent of his is a major boon to his ability to remain in the running. It's in this situation that these two become friends, but rivals as well. Isagi trains his ability to have an all-seeing eye. Past a certain point, he is the playmaker who is creating motion across the field. Nagi counters this ambition with his own devotion. He awakens to new mechanical ability and gets hands-on experience mid-match. With his talent, this is possible. Throughout the series, we are given the opportunity to follow Isagi's battle with his mental, struggle with his inability to perform, yet persevere in the end due to hard work. It's obvious to the viewer that Isagi has the most potential, but he might have been the one who had to strain the hardest to unleash it all. His archetype is one of a mastermind, but in a physical sport. It's difficult to utilize his power if you can't keep up mechanically as well. With how Nagi has constructed his playstyle, he relies purely on instinct. Alongside the control of his own body, the talent that allows him to pick up skills easily carries him through much of the series. It's okay to acknowledge that these characters have equal ambition, but that their situations are skewed in different directions. Blue Lock, along with Dragon Ball and Solo Leveling, are examples of hard work surpassing talent. The conflict usually occurs between the main character and the system. Protagonists are often an outlier in circumstances that don't favor them. These themes are supposed to motivate people through the rebellious nature shown. However, this isn't the only way to show the value of hard work. In fact, main characters have been known to take the position of the talented. Mob Psycho 100 depicts Mob, a middle schooler who contains an infinite storage of psychic power within him. Since he was younger, his ability to use this gift has far exceeded anyone else he has ever met. Going through the series displays this in strides. Having a character who is overpowered from the beginning is not a new trope. It is one that is difficult to do well. Much like the clawing up that Solo Leveling depicts well, Mob Psycho 100 shows us that talent isn't what it's cut out to be. This anime creates conflict, not through action, but interpersonal conflict that occurs between characters. Turmoil also arises in Mob himself. He contains the power to do anything with his psychic powers, but what he desires isn't obtainable through this manner. Contrasting this talent is Reagan, a conman who mentors Mob on his psychic abilities despite not having any of his own. Reagan's charismatic and collected demeanor has been trained through his work. From past jobs and experience, he builds on what he learns to, unfortunately, trick people. This includes Mob, but what's important is that Reagan, a man with nothing to his name, is practically raising a nuclear missile of a child. Mob manages to ground Reagan in his identity and what it means to be a genuinely good person. Reagan is able to teach Mob with his wisdom what it means to be a person first and foremost. When you have godly powers, it becomes easy to be defined by them. In this example, the hard worker and the talented inspire each other to pursue their goals further. Mob becomes fulfilled and Reagan gains security. There's an intriguing aspect to having a rivalry that encapsulates this phenomena. However, there's humanity in having the two inspire one another. The same occurs in the film we were talking about, Look Back. Fujino and Kyomoto start working together at one point. Kyomoto creates the background art for their one-shot manga, while Fujino develops the story and draws the foreground. Once they've grown up and reached a certain point, their paths diverge as Kyomoto wants to learn more about art at university. Fujino, on the other hand, wants to pursue the opportunity they found with their new serialized work. This part of the story is a major turning point. Most people would talk about how the drama is realistic to an embarrassing point or connected back to someone's purpose for doing art. For me, this shows how Kyomoto didn't want to fall behind Fujino. At the same time, Fujino chose the path she went down in order to show Kyomoto that it is possible to make it in the art world with what they have. They were inspired by one another. Going back to their early days, I assume that their improvements with each subsequent one-shot was due to their ambitions fueled by each other. Kyomoto kept studying different works and implementing techniques in her own drawings. Fujino kept her pencil to the paper so that her narrative wouldn't be outshined by Kyomoto's nearly flawless ambience. Even deep into the film where Fujino works on her own serialized manga, there's a longing for Kyomoto and the motivation she gave Fujino. Not only is her work the best that paired with Fujino's stories, but the process of week-by-week releases has worn down Fujino, especially without her best friend. Where other stories pit these archetypes against each other, Look Back depicts an empowering relationship. This idea that hard work and talent are opposites of each other can be true at times. However, there is no precedent that dictates that they cannot coincide. They can coexist and benefit one another. In my opinion, it's all a matter of perspective, both from the involved parties and the system that is enabling their ambition. Other anime have shown this to the same effect. Blue Period is another show where this is true. The main character is new to the art world and its wonders. He can get the mechanics and techniques down to a certain point. However, he's missing the inspiration for the work itself. He meets other artists along the way who, given the nature of other stories we've talked about, you could assume that they would be butting heads with one another. This story takes the alternate approach. Our protagonist is inspired by the talented artist. He recognizes that everything is not black and white. While they may have an aptitude for the craft, they still put in the hours to practice their skills. The main character, recognizing this aspect that humanizes these geniuses, asks them for advice about what it means to create art. It's a wonderful way of maneuvering the subject of hard work versus talent. As we've seen, hard work and talent are different. They are similar enough that they can mix and match and give power to those who just need to push a bit further. This dynamic isn't one that calls for antagonization. I believe that if we look at it from a different lens, our worldview can be wonderful. In a world that wants us at each other's necks, it's the least we can do to keep sane. I like to say that we may come from different paths, but we're all born from the same earth. Thank you for watching.